Well, guys, welcome back to the Life Chat. Today, I have a very important topic to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about mental health, coping with depression, and we're in a very special place for me. This is actually on the Delaware River in my hometown, and the reason it means so much to me is, first of all, when the obstacles of life or stresses of life would get to me, this is a place I would come and just sit here and enjoy God's earth and de-stress. Second of all, this is a recreational place. I would come here with my friends. We would kayak. And actually, if you're looking over there, right over the river is New Jersey. So we would kayak to New Jersey, fish, and do things like that. So this place means a lot to me. And today I'm actually with my friend, and he'll tell you a little bit about himself. He's a rapper. He's also in college with me. Very smart guy, and his name is Makai. And we'll get into it. First of all, thanks for coming on the podcast with me.
Appreciate you for having me.
Yep. So first question, let's just get right into it, is what do you do? When we talk about when it comes to your career, we know you're in school and vocation, but talk about your musical career, why you got into music and what you want to accomplish with music, your name and everything like that.
All right. So my name is Too Shy, two O's, two Y's, and I basically got into music really senior year. And I was never one of those people that said I always wanted to do music. It was never a direct passion for me. I always wanted to work in sport, play sports my whole life. Senior year, an event came up, and I used to work, tutor kids, and eventually this boy I went to school with played some chords on the piano. I freestyled, everybody went crazy in the room. From that day on, everybody was telling me, like, make music, and I really did it for myself. I didn't do it for other people. And it helped me address topics that was bigger than myself.
Yeah.
It helped me address topics that I couldn't personally say. Even though I'm an extrovert, I couldn't really say everything that I wanted to say that I could through music.
Yeah. So the other day we were talking about feeling, when it comes to music, because we listen to all types of music. Primarily, I listen to gospel and things like that, but sometimes pop. Even I'll go down Texas and listen to country too. You know what I mean? So talk about what you want to accomplish and the feeling. I'm just going to say one name and you'll know what I'm talking about, Al Green. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
Yeah.
So talk about that and what you want to really accomplish when it comes to music.
Like you said, the Al Green reference, it's that music that really makes you feel something.
Yeah.
The music that your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and your little brother and sister can feel.
Yeah.
That's that music that never dies. Like some music is here today and gone tomorrow. That's microwave music. That's the music you make quick. You make your money off of it. You get your presents off of it. It heats up quick.
Yep.
But that oven baked, that good home cooking, as I call it, when your mother, your father, or your grandmother make that home cooking, it's a different type of feel to it. It takes a bunch of ingredients. It takes love to put it in there. I love what I do.
Yeah.
I don't do it for money.
And let me ask you something. You see, one thing y'all don't know, we're black too. When grandma made food, it tastes different when she makes it with love.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you do in life, when you make it with love, when you do things with love, it's just different. It has a shine to it.
Has a different feel to it.
It has a different feel to it. So one thing we were talking about when it comes to his musical career is how Al Green, I don't know if you know the one song, I'm so in love with you.
Yeah, let's stay together.
Let's stay together. You see, my grandma maybe listened to it. My aunt and now the third generation listened to it, and it still instills that same feeling, like I'm gliding on these waters of the Delaware, not worrying about anything,
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful thing. And last question before we get into what we want to talk about, what do you hope to accomplish with music when you're talking about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
When Lil Baby talks about it's bigger than black and white, it's bigger than money, it's bigger than this. What do you hope to accomplish when you hear about the shooting that just happened in Buffalo, when you hear about the shooting that just happened in Texas? What do you want to accomplish, really? If you think about long term, if you think deeper and bigger than yourself, what really do you want to accomplish with your music?
Honestly, before I answer that, I just want to tell the people, it's bigger than us.
Yeah.
We're all chess pieces in this game we call life.
Yeah.
It's always bigger than us. So you can always give somebody a smile. You can always give somebody a hug. You can always talk it out.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, nothing is bigger than all together being unified.
Yeah.
Nothing really matters more. But to answer your question, I really want to accomplish and really get to people that it's bigger than the little things.
Yeah.
I want people to focus on why should people only be happy on their wedding day when their first child is born? Like, why is it certain events
Yeah.
that people come together, family reunions?
Yeah.
It should feel like that every day.
Yeah.
If you want to talk to your sister, talk to your sister. You want to talk to your brother, make that happen.
Yeah.
You know, I want people to focus on the little things, but I want my music to be a part of it. Because in my music I talk about everything of substance. I want to talk about love. A lot of people think talking about love isn't cool, but it's love on many different levels. It's familial love.
Yeah.
You have relationship love. You have friendly love. And a lot of those things are lost in the drawl of it all, if that makes sense.
And you see, I always tell people, love is the belt that holds everything together. You know, when you look at an outfit, you have a lapel pin, you have a shirt, you have a jacket, you have shoes, you have socks, but love is the belt that brings the whole outfit together.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm gonna be honest with you, if you don't have a nice belt, and it doesn't have to be a nice belt, if you don't have a leather belt, a black belt, your pants is gonna be sagging. The outfit doesn't look right, but love is the thing, is the mechanism that brings everything together, that brings people together, that brings nations together, that brings everything together. So good luck to you, and I hope you know, you make your music with love and things like that. And I hope you do touch people, you know. If you look at people like Taylor Swift, everyone can relate to their music. Even people, you were telling me a story about how in Philly, tell a story in Philly about how you can see people that act hard, but when certain music comes on, you see how, you know, they can relate to it. You know, tell them a story. It's a funny story, and then we'll get into what we want to talk about. But
Yeah, I remember. We were talking about the importance of how you say things in music. And it's not always what you're talking about, because a quote unquote trap rapper and a pop artist could be talking about the same subject, but the pop artist could reach tens of millions more people because of the way they say it.
Yeah.
So when using that Taylor Swift example, I was out. I was getting breakfast one morning, and this dude, he was speaking he was speaking in total like street slang, and he was
Very
with his
aggressive.
girl, very aggressive, and he was with his girl, and then somebody rides by playing SZA, "I Hate You," and he sings, "If you wonder if I hate you," and I'm looking like, the same dude that was just talking like he's getting all vulnerable, because if you really listen to the contents of that song, it's a vulnerable record.
Yeah.
Like SZA is one of those artists that can bring out emotion out of anybody.
Yeah.
So like being that, making people think outside of themselves, outside of their original character that they try to portray.
Yeah.
That's the music that really has power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That makes people dance with people that they never would have talked to on a dance floor.
Yeah.
That makes people reconcile with people that they didn't like yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you do the Cupid shuffle with somebody, you may be holding on to a complete stranger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or swag surfing with somebody, you don't know who that person is.
You don't.
But that music is what gels us all together, know how to move left, right, up, down.
The music creates a feeling of happiness, a feeling of almost like euphoria, a feeling of a perfect world, utopia, a feeling of love that just brings everything together. That's why music is so powerful. And good luck to you. I hope you do well.
Appreciate it.
And I'll continue to support you and listen to your music, you know. And just
sir.
always set high goals, you know, and don't let anyone break that down. So let's get into what we want to talk about. Today we do want to talk about mental health, because that's something that all of us sometimes tend to overlook. You know, we focus on money, we focus on this, but your mental health is so important because, and mental health goes hand in hand with one of the things I really want to talk about on this podcast, spiritual health. Because, you know, if your mind is in the wrong place, your body will follow. You know, I could be doing a workout, as an example I've given before. I could be doing a workout, and my mind is telling me, okay, I'm not tired. I can still go. My body may be tired. I may be gasping for air.
Yeah.
But if my mind is telling me, no, the game's not over, let's keep going, my body is going to follow. You know? So your mind is so powerful, and because your mind really starts off everything your mind creates for what you want to be accomplished. You know, your mind is sets the path. Your mind really sets the standard when it comes to everything else. And my dad always tells me garbage in, garbage out. And what that means is if you put garbage, because your mind is also a muscle. You know, when you work out, what happens is when you lift heavier weights, your muscles start to break down a little bit. It's called micro tears. And when you drink that protein, it builds it up. It builds your muscle up. But people don't understand that your mind is the same way. When we put books into it, it's giving it food. Your mind needs food. So when you put garbage into your mind, when you listen to nonsense music about the club, about sex, all types of nasty things, As opposed to listening to positive vibes, your mind will reflect that. Your body follows. You see people sagging their pants, they don't really know why, you know? So one of the biggest things we're going to talk about today is mental health, and another thing is coping with depression. So my first question for you is, how does spending time alone really help you figure yourself out? Because some people are so afraid to be alone, so afraid to. I know people, and we know someone. I don't want to say anything, but that is always in a relationship. That's fine, but if you're just hopping from a person to a person, or we meet people all the time that are afraid of being alone. But what is the importance of being alone? And also, during COVID-19, we were talking about depression and things like that. Tell us about your experience with spending time alone and coping with your depression and things like that, and what you got out of it, the positives you got out of it. Because spending time alone is so powerful. People forget about that. You have to spend time alone. Because when you don't spend time alone, you don't get those moments where you figure out, okay, this is what I like. You always have outside influences. But when you spend time alone, you figure out, okay, this is what I like. You find out who you are. Who you are is the biggest question that most people in this world cannot, answer. So talk to us about spending time alone.
When it comes to spending time alone, it's a hard road.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to go on it, and I tell people all the time that are close around me that you're never gonna be pushed to go on that road.
Yeah.
You're gonna be shoved. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to say, okay, today I'm gonna pick up all the problems that I have and start dealing with them. And it starts with you.
Yeah.
People think that their relationships fail, whether it's friendly relationships, whether it's girlfriend boyfriend relationships. They think it fails because of the other person. They think it fails because of the timing. They think it fails but it all starts with you. If you don't look in, you're never gonna get a result out.
You see, Michael Jackson said, it starts, and I'm talking about the man in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
It starts by looking in the mirror and saying, how can I change? How can I change myself? Because this world will never be a better place until individually we all change ourselves first.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I forget I think it was Alicia Cara. Is that how you say her name? I don't really listen to her.
Alicia Cara,
I don't really listen to her, but she says, you don't have to change, the world can change and stuff. What it means is, when it comes to changing the world or changing something bigger than yourself, you have to ask yourself and make it personal. What can I do to add to that piece of pie?
Yeah.
Because a pie is made up of so many different pieces. A pizza is made up of at least 8 to 12 slices. So how can I change myself first and improve myself?
Exactly. Literally. And when it came to that, I took a personal journey.
Yeah.
It was over the year of 2021. So COVID, as you spoke about, COVID-19. Well, I'm gonna start from the beginning because it really kicked off in 2020, when my grandmother passed away.
Yeah. Sorry for her loss too. May she rest in total peace.
God bless.
Yeah.
And to say about that, like, I was so torn by it.
Yeah.
But the first lesson I learned by being alone was that some things are bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Some things are bigger than what we can understand.
Yeah.
Because my grandmother, like other people out there, she had dementia.
Yeah.
So I watched my grandmother fade away. So watching somebody that took care of me, made me meals, did stuff like that, literally fade to the point where she wouldn't know me sometimes, it hit, and it hit hard.
Yeah.
But I had to realize, by her going on with God, that meant she wasn't hurting no more.
Yeah.
That meant she wasn't aching. That meant she wasn't out of her mind when it came to certain things of remembering people and making memories for herself.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a comfortable place for her. I couldn't imagine nobody being comfortable if you're not the person that you were.
Yeah. Oh.
You know what I'm saying? And I had to think about it, and I only came to that realization because I would ask God, why? Why me? Why take my grandmother? Out of all of the grandmothers across the country, you took mine.
Yeah.
And I would think about it so selfishly.
Yeah.
But now I just tell people through a personal revelation, get outside of you and start thinking about the benefit of what is happening, because everything's gonna fall into place, and people try to control stuff so much.
You see, I always talk about, the biggest thing I'm going to talk about on this podcast is legacy. And the reason legacy is so important is because you talk about the next generation, All right. But what that means is you're thinking about more than yourself. Because when you think so selfishly, like you said, you're in this small bubble, Makai. You're in this small bubble that no one can relate to. But when you think about others, you start doing things with love. You start doing things differently. Why am I doing this? You start asking yourself, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because of this. How can it affect others? Maybe I won't just say this thing because instead of having that I don't care, or I don't, you know the rest. I'm not going to curse, but you know the rest. Instead of having that mentality, you start thinking, oh, maybe what I say is going to affect you. Maybe what I say, if I say this the wrong way, it's going to affect you. So maybe I'm going to come and say this with love, or say, hey, Makai, do you mind helping me out with this? Rather than, oh, can you please go and do this? You see what I'm saying? So when you don't think so selfishly, you think about everyone else, and you also think about the next generation. How can you create?
Fact.
You know?
Yeah.
So my second question, I'm so sorry, is you were talking about depression, So first of all, when did you fall into depression? And I apologize for the mic. I know we had a little technical difficulties. But when did you fall into depression? Why? And how did you get out of that depression? Because some people push that, and I'm sorry to say, I might step on some toes. Some people get comfortable with that victim mentality, where it's always, oh, this is happening to me because people don't like me or this. But the next step is, okay, this happened to you. All right, we're past that. What's the next step? I can't change the past. How can I get out of that? How can I influence the future? So what caused that depression? When did you fall in depression? And how did you get out of that depression?
Yeah. So, like the story I started with, it bridges all together. So once my grandmother passed away, July of 2020, it turned into a snowball effect because I had just graduated high school.
Okay.
Just graduated high school. My grandmother dies a month later. The last memory I have with my grandmother is on my graduation day.
Yeah.
And it was shortly before she went into the hospital in different spurts. And because dementia had broken down her mind so much, the only thing she said to me is, "You look so handsome, baby." That's the last thing she said to me. That's the last words I have of my grandmother.
Yeah.
And so basically I had personal battles because I felt as though I left something on the table when it came to being there.
Yeah.
Like I was out there trying to live my life. I was out there trying to get ready for college. I was out there, and I never realized that something so important would get taken away from me before I got to that road of being in college. I was thinking about everything fast forward when what I had at that moment, which was my grandmother and those waking moments with her, I didn't really capitalize on it. And it's something that eats me alive, but I had to deal with it over 6 months, which gets to the depression. And I really just captured a moment in myself where it was just a dark place. And that's when I really started recording music. And my older cousin, he brought me into the music game, and he told me, if you're gonna do it for real. But even a couple months into recording, he said, yo, you're recording a lot of sad music. Like, you don't have no happy times, you don't have no this. And it was during that 6 months. And I said, listen, I'm just there right now. And I didn't realize how bad my depression was until I went back and listened to my music. I didn't even know that personally. So to speak to the people, you may not even know how bad your depression is. You may not even know you have depression. You may be walking around like everything is perfectly ideal for you. But when you look in, when I actually sat with myself and said, something's off, when it just seems like I don't want to get out of bed, when it seems like I can walk past my family members and just not exchange words, and that's just normal, because it wasn't like that before. And so during that 6 months, I cut off all relationships. Like we were talking about, somebody feels like they constantly have to be in a relationship. I was one of those people until I finally took time to get to know myself. So like I tell my brothers back home, yes, it's important to be with girls. Yes, it's important to build relationships. But if you don't know yourself first, you're gonna keep putting yourself in destructive situations that's gonna further destruct the man that you're gonna become.
It's so detrimental, right? It's so detrimental and deteriorating to your future when you don't know yourself. Because first of all, when you don't know yourself, my dad always says this funny thing, I try not to laugh. When you don't know yourself, you're like the octopus on roller skates. Imagine an octopus with all their tentacles, on roller skates. They're all over the place. They're not gonna be able to go out. They're all over the place. And the reason is because when you don't know yourself, what happens to a plastic bag when the wind comes? It can sway you this way, you blow this way, you blow that way.
Yeah.
You're all over the place. You're not disciplined. You're not going in any direction. One way you're going this way, one way you're going back down. One way you're doing this, one way you're going back down. So you really have to spend time with yourself and figure out who you are. And that could mean trying out new things like painting.
Yeah.
That could mean like what you said, trying out music and it worked for you. For me, it was in fifth grade. I learned how to play the piano. So I play piano. We've talked about it before, and it's one thing where I took it as my own. Especially when I spend time alone, I would go to my room sometimes and just think about, okay, what can I try that's new? And one day I just figured out piano, and I didn't know I had a talent for it. God gave me a true talent for piano, and I just started. One day I just started, playing.
Yeah.
You know. So I'm sorry. You could finish your story, and everything else,
Nah,
but
for sure. I
you
like
know.
how it's flowing. It's ebb and flow right now.
Yeah.
It's ebb and flow right now.
Yeah. So what's do you have one question for me? What's your first question for me? I know you have a couple. What's your first question for me?
Do you think, based off of what I said and based off your personal experiences, do you think that mental health gets worse if it's not addressed? If you just I'll be all right, I'll be all right. You know, people like to push things off. People are natural procrastinators in some light.
Hmm.
So if you just keep pushing it off, do you think those problems get worse? Do you think they subside after a while? Do you think they get better if you don't think about them or talk about them? Where do you stand on that?
So I'm someone, you know, my parents always taught me that first of all, this is just to speak to the type of person I am. Before the sun sets, and this is old too. The Bible says this too. Before the sun sets, you go to the person you have a problem with and get it right before the sun sets. So I'm someone as soon as there's an issue, because why would you let it sit there and wither and wait for it to go away or wait for it to even get worse? Why would you push it away when you know it's going to be killing you inside? It does you more harm than good. If you can address the problem right away and figure it out, somehow, some way, that's better for you. And I think it's actually worst if you wait for your mental health issues to get worse, and wait for it to. I think when it comes to mental health, as it goes on, you have to figure out the problems you're having so much, because a lot of people are going through so much, and you may never know. When I look at human faces, some people smile to me all day, and I can just tell, like, you're smiling and you're putting on a smile, but even later when I talk to them, and I may not know at first, but later when I talk to them, they're going through so much, and you may not know. But the question is, why? Why did you let your mental health to go so bad, or why did you push it away? Oh, I'll figure out later, when in reality, that's something that's so important. And the only solution I can come up with, the only explanation, I can come up with is people worry about, and this is a big thing. Don't miss this. Get this. Catch this. People worry too much about what other people think.
Of course.
So when it comes to addressing mental health, when it comes to doing things they like, when it comes to anything in this world, they always think about, what is someone going to think? I'm going to push my mental health to the left and not stop talking to this person for a little bit, or cut off this toxic person because I'm so scared about what they're going to tell me. I'm so scared about what this person's going to think. I'm so scared about what John down the street is going to tell me about the girlfriend that looked nice that I cut off because she was toxic to me.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? I'm so scared about what everyone else is going to think, but in reality, that choice that I could have made would have been beneficial to me, and I could have felt much better. I would have been set free from the shackles I had if I made that tough decision. But because I didn't want to make that tough decision, because I'm so scared about what Makai's going to say, I'm so scared about what Rex is going to say, So I think it starts with, addressing mental health, starts with pushing away sometimes what other people say. And I'm not saying forget about what other people say, because sometimes people can give some really good advice, especially people that have experiences before us. But you can't be so caught up in what the world is going to say, what social media is going to think, that you compromise, that's the word, you compromise something that could be so beneficial to you.
And I like that you spoke on that, because my second question for you, identically going along with the pattern that you were going with, do you think personally that you or other people determine your mental health more?
Ooh.
Do you think it's the people around you, or do you think it's yourself, how you receive things? Which party do you think plays more into mental health?
So that's a good question. So, first of all, it's a little bit of both, and the reason I say that, don't miss this, is because, and we both know this, environment is everything, Makai.
Yes, it
Environment is
is.
everything.
Yes,
You
it
see, I'm in the
is.
suburbs right now. This is where I grew up, and you see how beautiful it is and different. But if you talk to a kid in the city, their experiences might be different. They didn't have the opportunities I had. They never seen a river like this. They never seen environment is everything because environment plays a big role into your mental health too. Because if I'm in a toxic environment, Makai, this is just the reality. If I'm in a toxic place, my mental health is going to take a dip. This is why surrounding yourself with the right people, surrounding yourself with positivity, surrounding with yourself with sometimes people that are going to challenge you and push you to do great. You know, even now, there's a lot of friends I grew up with in high school and all that I don't talk to. And you know why? It's because I realized that some people were so toxic that we just didn't have the same goals.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that I surround myself with, like you, that push me to do great, that tell you, oh, do this, do that. We were just talking about stocks the other day. And you told me, yo, you got to get back into stocks. And that's the type of people you want to surround yourself with. Environment is so important. So sometimes outside influences, to answer your question, really does play a big part because, and simply because the environment makes or breaks a person. But also, there's a second part. The other part to what you said is why I said a little bit about. The other part to what you said is, do you determine that? You see, if you develop, and this starts when you're small, because if you develop a habit when you're little and it just festered in you and just kept getting worse and worse, it's hard to break that. But if let's say, I was taught or I developed or somehow came up with a mindset, or I'm a strong person, I'm sorry, but came up with a mindset that's strong, came up with a warrior mindset, that's what I'm trying to say. A lion mindset where little things don't affect me. Bob Marley said every little thing's going to be all right. I really think you can train yourself and grow into a person where the little things of life really don't affect you so much. So the other part of things is you can get to a point where I feel like maybe I have gotten to that point where small things don't really affect my mental health. Or this is the perfect thing to say. This is what I'm trying to say. Don't miss this. I don't let negative things ruin my day. I don't let the negative things, you know, bring me down. Because you create your own happiness.
There it is.
You create your own happiness. There's a saying, and I think it's in our Constitution, in pursuit of happiness, in pursuit of liberty, in pursuit of everything. It's something you pursue every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you have to create for yourself. I can't make you happy. If I do something and then you decide to be grateful, then it creates a feeling of happiness. I can't create if I'm waiting for someone else to create my happiness, I will never be happy because it's
Exactly.
never going to happen. We're imperfect beings. But I can create my happy. Right now, I'm so happy. I'm here in a beautiful place that God made with a friend talking about something that can help people. I created my own happiness. But I could be sitting here like this saying, oh, it's so cold,
Yeah.
and create that negative environment. It's so cold. The sun has set. It's so dark. I don't look good.
Yeah.
There's music in the background from a wedding. I could think of and focus on the negatives, but I decided to say, yo, this is a beautiful place. We're talking about something good, and I'm happy. So, what do you think? Do you think people influence mental health more, your mental health, or the state of your mind and the state of your mental health, or is it solely based on you?
I have an interesting outlook. Um, and I see it as you have total control over your mental health. And the reason I say that is because whatever you get in this life, whatever cards you're dealt, whether at a young age you're being abused, whether you've been in and out of homeless shelters, whether you were adopted, whether your parents kicked you out, whether you chose the wrong road, whether you made mistakes, whether you dropped out of college, dropped out of high school, no matter what, you have the liberty to take what you have and empower yourself.
There you go. There you
Now,
go.
it doesn't mean you're always going to be strong, because I would be naive to sit here and say that everybody's going to be strong every day when they wake up. We're human, like you said, we're imperfect beings. That's a big ask. But if you have a strong mind, nothing can break a strong mind. Martin Luther King used to tell people that marched with him, there will be guns on the other side. There will be motor vehicles on the other side ready to run you over. There will be water hoses on the other side. There will be batons on the other side. But they can't break your mind. They can break your leg. They could break your arm.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot break your mind.
Yep.
Nobody can break your mind.
Yep.
People will try to twist, turn, mutilate you, whether it's emotionally, mentally, physically. But nothing on this earth can break your mind if you are in touch with yourself.
But you have to get to that point first.
Exactly.
You have to spend time with yourself, figure out yourself, and then you develop that mind that's so powerful and rock hard that nothing can pierce it, that no weapon that form against you can prosper.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? You have to get to that point first. You know, because it's so easy. Like I said, I always tell people, if you take an apple, all right, Makai?
Yup.
And we always know this at grandma's house, at auntie's house, at mom's house. There was always a bowl of fruits on the table.
Yup.
But once in a while, you know, we got tired of apples. Me and you got tired of eating apples once in a while. Sometimes we wanted an orange, sometimes we wanted a grape. So what would happen? One of the apples would start to go bad because it's been sitting there so long. And when one of those apples go bad, it affects the whole bowl. That little brown piece on the apple that starts to go rotten starts to make every other apple rotten.
Yup.
And what I'm trying to say is, when you're around bad things, when you're around bad people, when your environment is bad, you know, it starts to affect everything else and make everything bad. So my other question is, in order to get to that point you're talking about with a strong mind and strong everything, what do you have to do? I think my answer to that is you have to surround yourself with the right people. You have to be in the perfect environment. But what do you think you have to do, especially when you look at the music industry you're in and maybe picking the right producers and things like that? Yeah. What do you have to do to really set yourself up for success in anything you want to do?
Biggest thing, you have to know how to siphon. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, siphon, how does that come into life?
So I know what that means, but to
for
some
people,
of our younger
for the people,
what does that mean?
I'm gonna break it down. When you siphon something out, it's when you take away some and leave the rest. Leave the important, take out the unimportant. Leave the good, take away the bad. If you know how to differentiate, siphon, take away, and you don't accept everything that comes your way, because there are some people that accept everything that comes their way.
Yeah.
If I think everything's good, because they have that closed mindset to where they can't see pros and cons. They can't see that making this move is better than making that move. They think making every move is good.
It's being content with where you are.
Exactly.
Instead of being hungry.
Exactly. People settle. They get in a place they feel comfortable. Comfortability is the number one killer to everybody's dreams and everybody's lifestyle. You get comfortable.
Oh my God.
Comfortability
Yep.
is the killer to almost everyone's dreams and their lifestyle.
Yep.
Why is that? Because you hear a lot of people say, I grew up, I had 2 kids, then I settled. You settled?
Yeah.
What's the point of settling when this life is for you to do something that is pillar worthy, statue worthy? What's the point? Now, it doesn't mean live a life on the edge your whole life. You can maintain stability and still go after you want.
Yeah.
I heard a celebrity say, it's not about your 9 to 5, but it's about what you do after that.
Yeah.
We all get the same 24 hours. Just because you have an 8-hour job doesn't mean you can't paint, doesn't mean you can't make music, doesn't mean that you can't make a podcast, doesn't mean that you can't focus on arts and crafts. that means nothing.
We make time for the things we really care about.
But I bet you people make time to watch Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I bet you people make time to watch the VMA Awards.
Yeah.
I bet you people
The
make time
Kardashians.
to watch the Kardashians
Yeah.
and get in on their life. And people wonder, why isn't my life where other people's life are? A lot of people are looking in somebody else's basket, but you don't know what it took for them to carry that.
Yeah.
You don't know that it took 20-hour days. You're not willing to put that in. So it differentiates, and you have to siphon out which people are gonna work hard with me, which people are gonna challenge me. Like you said, you can't have a bunch of yes men in your corner, yes women in your corner. Oh, you did great. Oh, you did great. Just because they want to be there for the journey. Yeah. Those are the people that you need to siphon out.
Yeah.
You need to differentiate. Is she just saying this music video is hard because I just got paid $10,000?
Yeah.
Is she saying that this next song is hard because I just got a record deal on the table? Yeah. Is she saying because she thinks I'm gonna be something? Is he saying he my homie and he want to be in a music video because he know I got a feature with this person? Yeah. Does he want to be in my podcast because he knows that I'm about to do a collaboration with this person? You have to take this stuff into account. Don't accept everybody. Accept who you feel is worthy.
This is why I say, and he said it best, you can't be a yes man, no man. And I was, you want to be around people that challenge you. I surround myself with friends. I'll say, okay, maybe in public they'll support me, but in private they'll tell me, you were wrong. It's not always easy to hear, but they'll say, maybe you were wrong, and this is how I felt. This is why I think so. This is how you can improve. And I always surround myself with people that are better than me, without a doubt. With a friend that knows finance, maybe a friend that's better than me at this, at that. I may be strong at public speaking, things like this, math and all, but I want to surround myself with people that feed into my weakness, that can better my weakness. You don't want to be around people that just say, yes, you're good, you're right. I was okay with telling you, when we were sitting there, we're listening to your music, I said, this is good, but how can you lower the gainer and use more of your voice? Because this is all a lot of auto-tune. You remember I told you that? Yeah. I said, how can you do that? And maybe I stepped on your toes in the moment, but it's because I want to challenge you and I want you to be like Drake. I want you to be as big as all these big artists you hear, Bruno Mars, Taylor Swift. You know what I'm saying? So I told you, I said, hey, use your voice a little bit. You have a beautiful voice. Use your voice. And that's where you want to surround yourself with people that aren't going to be scared. Because I could have sat there and said, Makai, this is so beautiful. This is wonderful. This sounds so good. And it did sound good. I'm not going to lie. It sounded good. But I can say this is what I hear. This is where you can improve. And it's called, I don't want to say positive reinforcement. Constructive criticism. There it is. There it is. It's called constructive criticism. It's complimenting first. And sometimes we as humans forget to compliment first. You have to compliment first and say, this is what you did right. Because it does something to someone when you just push them down and stomp on them and say, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. But if I can say, okay, you did really good at this. You're a wonderful singer. You're a wonderful artist. You have personality. But maybe you can do this a little bit better. Especially from my personal experience, maybe you can do this a little better. It does a little better and it helps with mental health too. Because nobody wants to hear all the time negativity. Sometimes you need that positive reinforcement to lift you up. You need somebody to lift you up and hug you when you're feeling down. And hold your hand and say, okay, let's go do this. Let's go clean your room. Let's go do this. I'll do it with you because I know you're not right now. And this goes into my third question and final question. I know you have two more for me. This goes into my final question. Ooh, this is one I thought about a lot. And this is one I may give you a second to think about. But what are your top 3 golden habits or top habits that people need to have a great mental health? In other words, what are your 3 things? And this is hard to think of 3. So you could tell me things or a couple things that people really have to master or really need to put themselves into to really have a strong mind. Like you talk about a lion mindset. Or a positive mind. For me, my biggest thing, and I'm only going to say one and let you talk. My biggest thing is, and everybody knows this, I'm an advocate of environment. An environment makes you, if you grew up in an abusive home, if you grew up in a home that was molesting, sorry to you. But I know what it does to people. I've heard people's story. I haven't experienced it, but I heard people's story. Environment creates all types of things. It creates instability. When you have a father they might not have been around. You miss out on a lot. You know, your environment makes you. If you're in a home where you couldn't eat all the time, it affects you in school because now your brain doesn't get sugar, and now you couldn't do good on that test. You know, your environment makes you. Look, we're in a beautiful place right now, and I always tell people this was all made by God. It's a beautiful place. And I thank God that, you see, my environment created a place where when the stresses came along, my parents weren't so controlling and had a leash on me. Some people are like that, and I feel for them. Where I could have ran to this place, a beautiful place like this that was, in my environment. I only live 5 minutes away from here. This is a beautiful place where I could come and just appreciate everything and tell myself, all the things I complain about, Makai, is nothing compared to what some other people have. The food I ate this morning, oh, it was burnt. It was this. It's nothing. The stuff at work we complain about, oh, this resident complained about this resident complained about that, is nothing compared to what other people go through. And what it does, it creates a feeling of gratefulness, you know? Because when I realize, oh, some people will want to wear the shoes you're wearing. Some people don't even have access to clean water like this. Some people don't have access to the food we ate this morning. Some people don't have access to the things we do. Some people wish we were where we were. I had people that my family knew from Africa that are in the village that when my parents went back home, they saw they're starving. They're starving. They don't know where they're going to get their next meal from. Right now, me and my family, and I'm sorry, I'm going to let you talk, but me and my family just donated 90 beds. And the reason we did is because I felt, and I put some money into it too, I really felt bad because the building we're in now, they were throwing away, getting ready for renovation, just trashing hundreds of beds off of 2 floors. And the reason I just couldn't sit there and let that happen, and especially someone that worked there, because I said, you know what? There's people in Africa. There's even people in America, because sometimes people try to think America's so perfect. There's even people in America that don't have beds to sleep on, that sleep on. So I told my parents, I said, hey, please, can we please donate even like, I said 5 beds. But my parents are so wonderful. They said, let's donate 90 beds. And they rented a U-Haul for a couple $100s. We went down, donated 90 beds. And the reason I'm saying this is because I felt good doing that. Because people really take for granted even the bed you sleep on that we say is too hard, is too soft. There's people that really sleep in the dirt, Makai. When my parents went to Africa, they saw people that slept in the dirt. You know what they do at night? They put toilet paper in. I try not to cry when I hear this. They put toilet paper in their ear so the bugs at night don't crawl in their ear. And we're over here complaining about $2 missed out or on why a resident said this or why someone said this to me. No, there's people in this world that, that literally put tissue paper in their ear just to sleep so bugs don't crawl in it. So for me, it's environment. But what is your top things, or even if it's 1 or 2, what are your top things you can think of that is needed to create a positive atmosphere for good mental health? What are your top things?
Yeah. My 3 things. I'm glad you talked about gratefulness because I was just about to hit that point, but I say my other 2 before. Independence.
Yeah. Why independence though?
If you don't have an independent mind, if you don't have independence when it comes to your actions, you will fall victim to the world around you. And the fact of the matter is, people don't realize how much influence their environment has.
Yeah.
So believing that you hold all the cards, you make all the moves, you're saying all the words, and you're walking every day with your own 2 feet, that's beautiful to think. But if you don't have independence, you're not really doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you're a puppet to your environment if you don't have independence.
Yeah.
And that's why I just used the walking example. Because if you don't know how to say no to certain things, if everybody in your community, peer pressure, there we go, we're going to talk about it. Because if everybody says, okay, I'm smoking the smoke, how many kids, how many teenagers, how many adults are going to say, I don't want to do that? It's nothing wrong with doing it. But if you're doing it to fit in, if you're doing it puppet-like, if you're doing it to fulfill somebody else's needs, you're falling victim to your environment. You know why that's happening? You don't have independence. You can't say no and go home alone. You can't say no and walk away to another section of the park that they're smoking at. You can't say no because people, us as a human race, we were born off of unity. We're born off of groups.
I tell people, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I tell people because my one friend, one of my friends has a cat and has a dog too. Actually, they live right down the street. Has 2 dogs and a cat. And they always say, hey, I go to work for, he works too. He works, it doesn't matter, but he works 12 hours a day, which is bad, but he works 12 hours a day. And he always said, hey, when I come home, my dog looks so sad and all. And I tell people and animals were meant to be in a pack. You always hear a lion's pack, dog pack. We were meant to be with each other. We weren't put in this world to do everything alone. We were meant to be with each other, but it has to be selective. So you can finish what you're saying. I'm sorry I had to say that.
No, I like it. I told you, ebb and flow.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Ebb and flow. Everything is ebb and flow. That's another thing I want to talk about is ebb and flow. Letting everything be as it is.
Yeah.
Stop trying to put such a strong hold on everything in your life. Everything that you think is meant for you, it's not really meant for you. You can push as hard as you want. I need this job. I need this job at JP Morgan. I need this job at L'Oreal. I need this job for the 76ers. And you could push. But your real purpose is working over here at a community center where you're going to touch thousands of kids. The real purpose is you being a preacher and reaching out to multiple members. The real purpose is you being a flight attendant and making people feel comfortable. Real purpose is you making a teacher and inspiring the next generation. It doesn't have to be so much of a stronghold on what you think because most people don't go through the process of knowing themselves. This is why people figure themselves out in their 50s. People figure themselves out in their 70s. And they be like, I live my whole life as another person. I say it's the scariest thing of all time. To me, people are scared of a lot of things, guns, violence, a whole bunch of things. The biggest thing I was afraid of is dying, not knowing who I am. How can I live and die and not know who I am? I lived a whole life for somebody else or for another environment or for the place I lived in. You never figured out your personal desires.
Your personal desires and your purpose on this
You get caught up in everything, going to a job, going to school, dealing with family issues. You get caught up in all of that. And then in your free time, you feel like you need a break from it. But that break is watching TV, is doing things recreationally. But you never really sit to get on top of what you are, what your purpose is on this earth, what you're meant to do. Everybody overlooks that for the little things. Nobody wants to think of the bigger picture. Everybody zoomed in. Nobody wants to zoom out and say, oh, wow. Nobody wants to look with that wide view, especially when you're young. The young people, we want to look so tunnel vision.
You have to ask the why. There's who, what, where, when, and why. If you don't know why is it creates a sense of purpose. Why is the reason you're doing everything. And the reason you do everything can be based off of many things, but the why is so important. People only care about the who. Who's going to think this? Who's going to see this? The where. Was I in Cali? Was I this? The what? But they never think of the when, but they never think about the why. Who, what, where, when, and why. Why did I do this? There's a purpose for everything. There's a cause for everything. There's also a consequence for everything. It might be positive or negative, but why? And we're almost out of time, but what is your last question before we go? For me?
I want to depict a very controversial topic because a lot of people say, you never lived like me. You never seen what I seen. So do you think that people from different family dynamics, people from different environmental dynamics, whether they grew up in the suburbs, whether they grew up in the hood, of course we know that they're going to see different things. They're going to be subject to different things. But do you think the environment is stronger than the people, or the people are stronger than the environment? Because as you can see, there's a different culture here than there is in North Philadelphia. There's a different culture in North Philadelphia than it is in New Jersey, where I'm from. Different culture in New Jersey.
Right across the river.
Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So do you think the people can be bigger than the environment, or do you think the environment can just take over the people?
So an environment consists of many things, Makai. People make up an environment. The way I say things, the things I say, the way I make you feel makes up an environment, you know? So I think that's a really good question. I think because people make up an environment and many other factors, because people create many other factors too, I think people are bigger than an environment, but they have to be willing to be bigger than an environment. In other words, they can't let an environment that consists of a few negative people, because there's always going to be bad in this world. There's no darkness, or there's no light without darkness. The only reason light, and that's a hard concept to think of, the only reason light exists because there's darkness. Light lights up the darkness. You see what I'm saying? So there's always going to be good and evil too. There's always going to be bad people. So until people can realize that really small few is not going to determine this whole environment, people can never change. And like Michael Jackson says, I'm going to quote him again. I'm starting with the man. I'm talking about the man in the mirror, because it starts with me and you saying, okay, we're going to break this cycle of oppression. We're going to break this cycle of worrying about the wrong things. We're going to break this bad habit that's been going on for so long of bad things to create for the next generation. You see what I went with that? So it starts with people. It starts with self, to be honest with you. Number one is self. It starts with self, improving myself, making myself better. So, because I make up an environment to create a positive environment, a loving environment. So it starts with the people first. People have to change, man. This world is only vicious and bad because of people. Look what just happened in Buffalo. Look what just happened. Someone went in and killed so many black people in a what was it, a supermarket? In a supermarket. Look what just happened in Texas. Someone went in and killed people in a school. How heartless and sinister do you have to be to actually have the heart and go in and take a human life? And it wasn't just one, it wasn't just two, it wasn't just three, it wasn't just four, and I can go on. It was a mass shooting. Went in a school and took people's life. And the reason, I promise you, no reason can be good enough to have a no reason is good enough to justify why those people are gone right now. You know how many moms, grandmoms, uncles, dads are grieving right now because their loved one is gone? You know? It's so heartless, and we have to change our hearts first and fill our hearts with love. You know what happens when you fill a teapot with water and it boils and boils? It's gonna take a while. It's gonna, come to a point where it starts to hiss, and before you know it, if the water's too hot, it could explode. So when we fill our hearts with nothing but love, when life gets the best of us and rocks us this way and that way, the only thing that spills out is love. We have to fill our heart with love. So, like me and you said, we kill people with kindness because that's all we have to give. I don't have no more evil to give. We have to get to a point in this world where we have no more evil to give. There's so much more to life to think about, man, than to focus on the negativity. I used to sit here every day and just admire the beauty and admire the different things. You see, we're in Pennsylvania right now, but right across the river is New Jersey. And then if you go that way so much, it's Delaware. And the reason I used to sit here, I used to just admire God's earth and say, look how beautiful the water is, and think about many things. I want a vacation one day with my family on waters, maybe in Hawaii and all. And there's so much more to life than to think about, oh, this person looked at me the wrong way. This person said something to me the wrong way. This person did this thing to me the wrong way. This person looked at me. This person touched me the wrong way. How about we say, oh, we don't know what they're going through. Maybe I can pray for them because they didn't mean it. There's so much more to life, man. There's just so much more to life. And we have, as a generation, first of all, because this generation is messed up. We already know that. We have to fill ourselves with love. And love is a big thing, too, that's going to break this cycle of depression and mental health. We have to have people around us with love, like we talked about. We have to create a positive environment for people and much more. Love is, I think, the number one thing. Love and environment is the thing that's going to hold everything together. And that unfortunately, that comes to the end of our talk. But that really is it. When we talk about mental health, depression, coping with these things, you have to spend time alone. All right? You have to surround yourself with positive people that are going to uplift you, that are going to challenge you. And also, this is the third thing. If there's nothing else you get out of what we say today, the one thing I want you to get out is you have to fill your heart with love. Love is the thing that's going to change this cycle we see of hatred, of violence, of oppression. You have to fill yourself with love. You got to think about, how can I help someone else? You know, my favorite time is Christmas time, and I say this, but my favorite time is Christmas time, not because we get presents and all, it's because that's the opportunity, the biggest opportunity I get to buy a present for this person, to show them how much I love them. Buy a present for this person. And I know it's I should be doing that all year round, but Christmas time is the person where I get to spend money on other people because it brings me joy. Fill your heart with love. Love is the only thing that will get us through this cycle of hatred, of depression. Love the others around you because you don't know what they're going through. And before we go, thank you so much for coming on. And any last words? I like to say this. If there's anything at all you like to say, what would it be before we leave? Anything else you want to say?
I just want to say, look at the person in the mirror. If you want to take away something that's really powerful that you could use every day when you wake up, not I'm going to use this when I have problems, I'm going to use this every day you wake up. Look at the person in the mirror. Be more than what you see. Be more than what you see in the mirror. If you see perfection, be perfection times 2. If you see a person down, if you think your physical image doesn't look good enough, double what you think when you walk out that house. Absolutely, and capture whatever you want to do and do it times 2. And I promise it will never fail you, whether it's a conversation you need to have with a loved one, whether it's going out and doing something that you're nervous about, whether it's a school assignment, whether it's a job interview, whatever you think you can do, set your mind times 2. I have to do it 2 times better. Yeah. And you will set yourself up for a formula of greatness, a formula of authenticity. Not, I'm gonna do what I saw on that YouTube video. Take what you have from that YouTube video and capture it. Yeah. Utilize it. Utilize whatever's around you in your environment, with the people you surround yourself with. Take it, differentiate, siphon. Take what you need and feed yourself with it. And look at that person in the mirror.
There we go. So thank you so much for tuning into the live chat. We have so much more to cover. Relationships, we briefly touched on it. We're going to get back into that. Your spiritual health. How can you connect with God? How can you find something that's going to drive you? Physical health, because your health is your wealth. You can't do anything if you're sick. Financial health. How can I take care of my finances to the point where I can create what I want in the future? You know, vocational. What is my job? And this is the biggest one to me. Time management. Those are the 6 pillars we're going to cover. Time. How can I not waste time? Or how can I realize that time is so important and rare and scarce? So utilize my time the right way. So thank you so much for tuning into the live chat. Once again, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. And everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. And one more time, thank you so much to my cameraman, Rex. Laminar Media for shooting me all the time, you know, not shooting me, but capturing me and recording me. And they do all types of things. If you guys want their information, feel free to reach out. But thank you so much, and we have much more to cover. Like and subscribe.